What band were you slow to realize was awesome? As in, you liked a single song but took a while to realize it wasn't a one-hit wonder. A Tribe Called Quest. You on point tip. Fuck yes. Midnight Marauders is an absolute classic, and even the later albums are solid. Tears for Fears. Yes, I was around for their hits back in the 80s, but never gave them credit. They are so very good. Much better than a couple hits. I heard Head Over Heels in my youth and loved it. Learned to love Everybody Wants to Rule the World and picked up songs from The Big Chair. Loved every track and still enjoy all the small flourishes to it. Tears for Fears played my town with Hall & Oates a few years ago. Apparently couldn't sell enough tickets, so they had a flash sale of $10 a pop with a limit of 6 tickets. I bought 6 immediately and figured even if I couldn't find friends I'd just explore the space. Whole time Tears for Fears was playing, my friends kept looking at me saying, "Oh shit, I didn't know this was them." They were awesome. Talking Heads. The 80s new wave thing didn't take at first, but it gradually grew on me. Edit. All right, you guys. My phone is blowing up. At this rate, I'll never get to sleep tonight. I'm going through a Talking Heads phase right now. If you haven't watched Stop Making Sense, you are missing one of the great live performances ever. If you don't have time to watch the whole concert, skip to Life During Wartime and just enjoy the band. I loved their biggest hit, The Wait, for decades, only to fall in love with their discography a few years ago. The Last Waltz is such a great movie, a concert with them and lots of other great people. Check out The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. The drummer is the singer, which is cool. I am also a drummer. I am not as cool as the band's drummer. Blondie. I have a lifelong love for Deborah Harry, a truly talented woman who just doesn't gaff what people think. Pixies always knew of Where Is My Mind, but their whole catalog is amazing. Love Debaser. Doolittle is one of my all-time favorites. Every song on that album worth a listen and re-listen. Massive Attack and Portishead. New songs from 120 Minutes and Other Shows. Nuisance from 100 and Other and 10 and point and amazing stuff. The whole Bristol trip-hop scene has so many amazing artists. Edit. Check out Max and Quay by Tricky. It is brilliant. And spelling, hell ye dude. Of course Teardrop is a massive song, but in 2015, I got super into the entire Mezzanine album and have been obsessed ever since. Same year with Portishead. I was just listening to Dummy last night. To Dummy. Same year with the Portia Street. She lay 2015 was a great year for me getting into bands because I made a new best friend with impeccable taste. Totally ashamed to say Fleetwood Mac. Everyone in high school loving it, and I was a contrarian. Actually didn't really listen until my 50s and discovered they indeed were awesome. I'm ashamed, but I only really got into Fleetwood Mac last week. I always liked Go Your Own Way because I'm basic, I guess. But I finally decided to listen to Rumors all the way through because it is considered one of the greatest albums of all time. And who did it live up to that billing? Just War. The Cure. I found them to be oak until I listened to their album Disintegration fully. Now I love that album and can listen to it on repeat all day. That album is their magnum opus. I remember picking up that album in 1999 and absolutely loving every song. Pictures of You was a particularly meaningful song during a rough breakup. Rufus Wainwright for me. I was a fan of his cover of Across the Universe and didn't pay attention to anything else he had been up to. Holy hell, that guy can sing with passion. Same for Tom Waits. I knew his gruff side, but then I heard some of his ballads. Love that guy. I have a few but the first to come to mind is Modest Mouse. I, like probably a lot of people, heard Float on way too many times on the radio. I like the song and the overall vibe of them as musicians, but for some reason it never occurred to me to dig a little deeper into their discography. Oh boy, did I find a treasure once I looked them up on Spotify. The Moon and Antarctica is a desert island album for me. Modest Mouse is so underrated. Not a band, but Elton John. Growing up, I liked Rocketman and Tiny Dancer. In 2019, I impulsively went to the theaters to see Rocketman and discovered there were other songs I liked. Your song, Honky Cat, Crocodile Rock, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, that I just never knew were by Elton. I became obsessed with his music shortly afterwards and was even supposed to see him in concert before COVID canceled it. He has so many fantastic songs that are underappreciated. Hopefully you get the chance to see him play live someday. I've had numerous friends tell me his concert was the best they've ever been to. Metric. It all started with a skate video since To Help I'm Alive. It snowballed into me with Metric's entry discography in my library. Their album Fantasies might be my favorite album of all time. It is perfect. Steely Dan heard their stuff on the radio as a kid but did not embrace the brilliance of their songs till much later. Deacon Blues is one of my favorites. Steely Dan is awesome. Complex, well-written music with a lot of sarcastic lyrics. They were a slow one for me. I probably appreciated their music as I got older and started playing the guitar. Queens of the Stone Age. Was in high school when their Songs for the Deaf album came out, bought it and only wanted to hear No One Knows, and didn't get their other stuff. I know. Even gave the album away to someone couple days later. Now, I'm a fairly big fan of Josh Homme and many of his projects, them Crooked Vultures, Eagles of Death Metal. Kiss saw them at Call Jams couple years ago and have all their albums. Songs for the Deaf is one of my favorite rock albums of all time. Same here. It wasn't until Era Vulgaris that I really started getting into them, and then I saw them live during their tour in 2008 and that sealed it. Lullabies to Paralyze is by far one of my all-time favorite albums now. It's one of the only albums I never skip a song on, unless my parents were around and I would skip Skin on Skin. Warning. Brief but inane rambling ahead. Proceed at your own risk of boredom. Apologies in advance. I'm sleep deprived and my brain thinks this is important. Came here to say basically this, but I've just now realized that somehow I never put together the fact that Songs for the Deaf came out in 2002 when I was in year 3, and I distinctly remember never hearing No One Knows until 2019-ish. Then suddenly it was on the radio all the time and it was some new song I kind of liked. Then in 2011 I was at someone's 18th birthday party looking for decent song on whoever's iPod was plugged in. I picked No One Knows, and my at that time very recent ex-boyfriend made a face at me, and then I didn't listen to Queens of the Stone Age again for 3 years. Now I would describe Kutsa as one of the few bands, maybe the only band, that make me feel like myself when I listen to them. One of the Soundgarden. I knew a couple songs and I decided to explore more of their catalog. Was not disappointed. That led me to Temple of the Dog, Audioslave, and Chris Cornell's solo work. Rip Chris Cornell. Best voice in all of rock music. I liked all of his work, but Audioslave was my jam in the mid-2000s. Mint. Only knew of Kids. Electric Feel. Turns out they have hundreds of more amazing tracks. Little Dark Ages is an incredible album. One of my most bizarre concert experiences was seeing them at a music festival a few years or so back. They played main stage and had a solid-sized crowd. After they played Electric Feel, a third to half of the crowd immediately dipped. After Kids, half of the remaining crowd left. I was sitting in the back section, so I had a full view of this mass exodus. I had never seen anything like that before and since. It was wild. For quite some time, Stairway to Heaven was all I knew about Led Zeppelin. Then one day I decided to cough up some green to buy the Ivk. The Well, needless to say, within a month I owned every album from I to Coda. It is my favorite rock album of all time. Not a single miss on the track list. Jimmy Eat World. I had only heard the middle for a long time. Clarity is a top 10 all-time album for me. Bleed American is one of my favorite albums. Futures is one of my fave albums. I always thought Sweetness was a better representation of their music. Never cared for the middle though. DeVoe, band a lot of people like to make fun of. People will argue until they were blue in the face that DeVoe was a one-hit wonder. Go through their catalog and there are a ton of great songs. They were also an incredibly influential band on a lot of modern music we listen to today. I never gave them a chance until I stumbled onto their cover of Satisfaction. That really opened my eyes to what they were trying to do. Mark Mothersbaugh is fucking prolific. I guarantee that everyone has watched at least one show or movie he has done music on.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.